You don't have to Google very far to see all these news articles of people who've applied to 100 jobs or 200 jobs and they're just not making much progress, and they think, oh my gosh, the job market is getting so impossible. But really, when you stay too broad, you don't stand out. So on one hand, many of us may not think of ourselves as super outgoing types, and the idea of going to some kind of networking event and mixer might give you anxiety, or you feel like you'd stand in a corner and not know who to talk to or what to ask about. And so what ultimately I'll do is try to break the purpose of it down into some pretty clear steps. And some of it is very much informed by sociological theory. So remember us talking about cultural capital a few class sessions ago. There is literature out, I'll show some of the studies, that point to the fact that hiring is very often a case of what we call culture matching. So their hiring managers are looking to see if you're a good fit for the culture of the industry, of their company, and of the specific people that you'd be working with. And so one of the ways you can boost your chances when you're applying for a job, when you're trying to network and find out what kind of possibilities for careers are out there, is to be boosting cultural capital in a specific area. Because if hiring is often culture matching, you want to make sure that you can use some of the signaling opportunities to show that you are a match for that culture. And so, cultural capital can be embodied, it can be institutionalized, it can be objectified. So there's multiple ways in which you can signal this cultural capital you have. But a lot of students, when they're looking for jobs, they think, well, I really want to maximize my chances, so I'll keep my options as broad as possible. And they'll, I'm interested in a lot of different possible industries and a lot of different possible job opportunities, and so they'll apply very broadly to a lot of different stuff. You don't have to Google very far to see all these news articles of people who've applied to 100 jobs or 200 jobs and they're just not making much progress, and they think, oh my gosh, the job market is getting so impossible. But really, when you stay too broad, you don't stand out. Right? So imagine the metaphor I like to use is you're joining the high school track team, and the coach is like, what events do you want to do? And you're like, well, I want to maximize my chance of winning, so I'm going to do all the events. I want to stay open to every event, right? You could obviously think of why that wouldn't be great, right? Not only are you probably better at some events than others, but if you don't focus on the particular skills and strengths that certain events call for, you're going to be mediocre at each of them at best. And so there are some basic ways you can do this. One is thinking about where you're positioned in existing networks. So networking is not just about building your Rolodex of random people. It's about understanding how social networks already exist and how you can uncover some of the ways that they're mapped out and then position yourself as a node in that network. Part of that might be your LinkedIn profile. If somebody clicks on your LinkedIn profile online, do they say, oh, this is a aspiring or up-and-coming person in this particular field or industry or space, or does it look pretty generic? You're a student looking for any opportunity, right? And another piece of it is, to do that, is selection, right? You have to select what direction you want to go in. Now, you don't have to figure your whole life out at once, but the sooner you can start narrowing into some directions, the more you can position yourself and gather the cultural capital you need to stand out in that area. So what I recommend is, one, start by thinking of broad industries. Right? There's healthcare industries, education industries, certain types of business industries, biopharmaceutical, criminal justice, health and human services, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's also cross-functional roles that you can do in each industry. So that could look like, there's some classic ones, of course, right? HR, accounting, marketing, but there's many others as well. And so you can be preparing for a certain kind of cross-functional role, and you could be preparing for a particular industry. Now, if you say, like, I want to be an HR manager in a professional sports industry, you can already start to think of, like, how do you build the cultural capital, both in like HR management and professional sports, to start thinking about what would make you stand out differently. And if somebody said to you, help me figure out ways I can become this particular person. So for my example, HR in a professional sports industry. It doesn't take a ton of Googling or asking ChatGPT things. Just start thinking of some pretty quick ways that you can build some insider knowledge in those areas, right? And to craft your LinkedIn to look like you're moving in that direction. And so, now once you're in a field, of course, say you become an entry-level HR person, you decide you love HR, but you're not so sure about the sports industry. Well, you can move from the sports industry to another industry within HR. Or you decide you love the sports industry, but you don't love HR. Well, you can look for other cross-functional roles within the industry. So you have opportunities to pivot. Back to the track metaphor, you're running the 800 and you realize you're a little bit more of a sprinter, they can move you down to the 400. Or you're a little more of a distance runner, they can move you up to the mile or something, right? So you don't have to figure your whole life out at once, and you will pivot. You will make many transitions. But the literature says, and just what we're seeing in hiring, that the sooner you start to pick a field, like an industry, as well as a certain kind of skill set or role that you'd be interested in building the cultural capital for, the easier it is to position yourself within, as a node in the existing social networks, professional networks that exist, that your chances in your experience when you go out to try to find these first internships and entry-level jobs and so forth, they'll be a lot more fruitful than somebody who is trying to apply for everything to keep all their options open.